Well, welcome back to episode 2 of Obie and Jenny Travel Adventures. We're so excited you've joined us for this week's episode, and we are going to be sharing with you Arches National Park and the city of Moab.
So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about, we actually went on this trip in October, so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about traveling in October. We really like to travel in October for a bunch of reasons. The weather's still nice. Obviously, you got to do it early enough to where we're not getting into snow depending on where we go. But we've been as far up as Montana in October and mid to late October, and it's worked out really well. And that's when we went on this trip to Arches National Park. Places aren't overly crowded like they are during the summer, and it just was a perfect time of year, I think, to be down there.
Yeah, we really like that it's not crowded, and the fact that you can get in places, not waiting in lines. Even the small towns like Moab, it wasn't long waits. Summertime, a lot of times you can't even get into the local restaurants and eateries because there is such long waits. So we like October. This past October of 2021, we visited National Park, Arches National Park, and we stayed at the Spanish Trails RV Park. Now, it is a little bit outside the National Park. It's about 8 miles from the actual entrance of the national park and about 4 miles from downtown Moab, where all the different types of eatery and shopping is. So it was a great location, super quiet, backed up, the backdrop was really pretty. It was right up against the mountains, and it was just easy in, easy out access, and it wasn't overly crowded. Again, nice flat surfaces, didn't really have to do a lot of leveling, just super easy with our 40-foot motorhome. Again, we couldn't get into the national parks. A lot of them were restricted because we are so big and we tow, so we do have to go outside the park sometimes. So we did stay at Spanish Trail RV Park, and it was about $59 a night. So we really enjoyed ourselves there.
So when we got there, we decided to just do some quick exploring, basically, just try to figure out what the lay of the land was and what the national park was going to look like, so we could basically prepare for the next day. So we had our truck with us because we towed it down there behind the motorhome. So we jumped in the truck and we basically just drove through Arches National Park. It takes about a couple hours to get through there, but we got to enjoy some of the quick sights, kind of put a little bit of a plan together, and basically just more so prepping for the next day.
Yeah, right away when we got in, we saw Park Avenue, we saw Balanced Rock, which these are all visible straight from the road, right from our vehicle. So you can stop quickly right when you come in, right there at Park Avenue, and that's, just a beautiful scene. Basically, it looks like tall buildings. You can walk down for about a mile and really see all the rocks that kind of look like a building landscape or a high-rise skyline. So that was really something fun to see. And of course, the well-known Balanced Rock is right there off the road, about a half mile to a mile in from the actual park entrance. You could see it to the right. And again, we just took the main road, and it goes about, I don't know what the total miles is, but I would say maybe 4 or 5 miles in, but there's a lot of little things you can get off and see. So we just went exploring on our arrival day.
Yeah, so like I said, it takes a couple hours probably to get all the way to the end, come back, especially if you're stopping to do some sightseeing. There's a lot of pullouts and lookouts and turnout points, and there's one of the interesting things I think about Arches National Park is you can see a lot from the car. So if you're not able to do a bunch of hikes or you have any sort of physical limitations, it's a great national park to go to because you can see a lot of really interesting things from your car and right off the side of the road.
After exploring the main road of Arches Park, we decided that we would go out to dinner, and we found the Sunset Gril. It is one of the oldest restaurants in all of Moab, and it has some real historical value to it. And you can not only enjoy the food and the scenery and the sunset, but you can learn a lot of things about the area of Moab and what put Moab on the map.
Yeah, at first it really didn't sound all that enticing to me, but Jen found it, like most of the stuff she usually tends to find, and I thought, I don't want to go up there, but we did, and I'm glad that we did because it ended up being a fantastic dinner. The views were amazing. We got to see a fantastic sunset, and the restaurant had just a lot of fun aspects to it. From the outdoor seating, the food was pretty good, and it came with a fantastic story. Right? You want to share that with them?
Yeah, well, the original homeowner is Charlie Steen, which he built this private home for himself and his family. And it was, just a perch up on top of this hill. And he had like gardens and rose bushes and things to keep outside invaders out that were trying to get up to him. But again, he was somebody that kind of discovered this uranium in Moab and the history about that and put Moab on the map and whatnot. So there's a lot of history, but it was his private home that he lived in with his family. And when they have now made it into a restaurant, very cool to see and just to be a part and witness all of that.
Yeah, and if you have some time, Google him, Charlie Steen, and basically the history surrounding him. He was broke as a joke. To some extent, from what I understand, stumbled upon this uranium and became uber rich as a result. And like Jen said, he put Moab on the world map, is what it says. So pretty interesting and something I found kind of fun.
Yeah, very interesting. Our first full day of Arches National Park, we decided to take on our adventure alone. Wow, sometimes that can turn out pretty good and sometimes not so good, but this one is a thumbs up. It's called the Fiery Furnace. If you want to do some research on the Fiery Furnace, it is a permitted hike that is self-guided only. You cannot take any guides in there, or guides can't take you in there. You actually have to have a permit, and you have to go online and purchase that permit for $10 per person, and there's a lot of details that you have to do before getting that permit.
Now you guys know, if you know me, and a lot of you do, you know that I'm not a big hiking fan, right? Usually I go into these things kicking and screaming. It is what it is. You gotta love me the way I am, and you'll see later on why we call ourselves the Wily Travelers and Wily Adventures. And the hike was a lot of fun. We really had a good time. It was very doable. I wouldn't call it difficult in nature. I don't know. I don't know. Again, always check the National Park's website for how they rate these hikes and whether they're moderate or difficult. But she's taking me on some hikes that were difficult, and this one I didn't see as difficult. However, you had to spend a lot of time make sure you were going in the right direction, and you were going to, follow the little arrows and signs that they had for you to get your way all the way back around. But it was a ton of fun, I thought.
Yeah, part of the permit process is teaching you where you're allowed to walk and where you're able to go, and teaching you about the arrows. They're about this big. They have arrows throughout the whole hike showing you the directions to go. But keep in mind, these arrows don't just stand out flashing red lights. They are tan in color, which they match the rock, and they have a little white arrow. And it looks like it might be pointing down, it might be pointing to the left, it might be pointing over there. It takes a lot of brain power to get us around without getting lost.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things I really liked was it wasn't just a trail hike. You were climbing up onto large boulders, through cracks and crevices, and just really having to work at getting through some of these spaces to get out to the other side and then continue on the trail. So I think maybe that's why I enjoyed it, because it was different than just walking uphill or going through the Grand Canyon. It was something to me new.
For sure. And the type of hiking that it was, you had to use your arms, your legs, you had to squeeze, you had to get up and down all over the place. But what I mostly enjoyed was it was not only a physical hiking challenge, it was also a mental challenge. And one of the things that I want to kind of just put out there, if you're, ever thinking of going out there, is don't rely on your Wi-Fi. There was some hikers up there that had apps that were going through the Fiery Furnace, that had these apps that had maps to show you the direction, so you didn't have to rely on the little arrows. But they were wrong. When we did get lost, they were lost too. And they had the map or on the app on their phones and whatnot, and it wasn't leading them any better than the little ones, the little arrows. So again, you can't rely on Wi-Fi when you're out there. You do have to use your brain and the wherewithal of where you're at. And why don't you explain what your Boy Scout mode and picking the highest peak? Explain that to them.
Yeah, so one of the things that, and I actually saw this on another video a while back, we were doing a little bit of research, and as we came in, we picked the highest possible point that had a peak on it, so that we could have a point of reference, right? And we're not professional hikers, but what this video told us was if you find that point, then you can always kind of reference where you are in case you do get lost. So we did that, and it helped us out. We didn't really get lost, but it was helpful just in case.
We didn't get lost too bad. We did get going off into the wrong directions, and we self-corrected. But it was overall, it was a great hike, very challenging, both physically and mentally for us, I think, personally, and definitely well worth the $10, well worth the class that we had to take to get the permit. Only 75 people a day get to go in to see this fiery furnace of Arches National Park.
So be sure to check it out, Fiery Furnace.
It's worth it.
So that kind of wrapped up our first full day at Arches National Park, and we had a blast going through the Fiery Furnace and sightseeing. But after that, we went and got cleaned up back at the RV and decided to spend a little time in town in Moab.
It's always great to get out and see the towns of the destination stops that you take on your travels. So we always enjoy getting out and eating some of the local foods and shopping at some of the local shops.
Yeah, I needed a belt too. So
That's
typical.
true.
I'm the world's fastest packer, and I don't know how, but I didn't take a belt. I had no belts, and my pants were falling down. So we had to go shopping in town and find a belt and grab some dinner and I don't know, maybe a couple beers along the way.
Always got a beer stop. For day 2 and 3, we went about and hired a private adventure, what I call a private adventure, a hiking guide tour, whatever you want to call it. I call it a private adventure because we love to do this, and or I should say, I love to do this.
Yeah. Jen's got no budget when it comes to hiring guides, adventures, helicopters, seaplanes, the occasional person to paddle a boat for you, and etc. But in this particular case, though, as in most of the time, it actually ended up really fun and super worth it.
Yeah, I set out to find Hike Moab. If you find him on Instagram, you can look at Hike Moab, but his name is Micah, and he took us out for 2 days and showed us things that we would never have found on our own. You know, being together 35 years and married 30 doesn't necessarily mean that we always agree or just do everything together. But that's a different episode, maybe even a different channel. But for this one, I do this because for us, it just makes it easy. We go with what they say, we kind of give them what we want to do, and then they plan it all out for us. And to me, that helps relax the day. It allows us just to kind of be led around and shown beautiful different things that we wouldn't have found on our own, and definitely leaves all the headache and planning out of it, where they'd come along and show us things that we would never have found on our own.
Yeah, and Micah was a ton of fun. Let me tell you, we're not a fan, either one of us, I think it's fair to say, of big group tours and things with a bunch of people and overly itinerized and stuff like that. But Micah worked with us, talked to us about what we wanted to get out of our time at the park, and really tailored, the events and the plans based around that. And honestly, within a short period of time, it's like he was a friend. You know what I mean? And it was so personal and so engaging that it was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Again, Obie is exactly right. The reason why I do private ones, I just want to hit note on this, is because if you're in either small group or any type of group with other people, your decisions affect them, and their decisions affect you. So if I get tired, I could say quit. If I want to go up the mountain, I go up the mountain when it's a private tour. So in a group tour, you don't really get to do that. You don't have much say. You just have to go along with the flow and, see how it goes. Whereas a private tour, like it winds up a personal friend. I'm still in connection with Micah.
Yeah.
We get a professional photographer out of the deal. Usually they always take great photos of us at the places. So it is well worth the money spent. Adventure. What does it mean to me? From sunrise to sunset.
Boy, there's no doubt about that. Everywhere we go, she wants to leave before dark, and the plan is to come back after dark. I'm more 9-ish, right? 9-ish after coffee and breakfast. So you can probably imagine our first day with Micah was before actually sunrise. We were meeting him in the dark, getting ready to start our day.
Best time of day is before sunrise. So we stopped out, we drove into the national park to meet him at Devil's Garden, but beforehand we stopped at Panorama Point and we enjoyed the sun just rising up. just gorgeous. One of my favorite times of day is before sunrise. Obie, not so much. He says on vacation he wants to stay in bed and enjoy coffee.
I was gonna bust out my sunrise hard hands, but I think I got busy and I forgot.
We explored Devil's Garden Campground. We drove through there, realized our rig would definitely not fit in there, but there is some great parking for smaller rigs, as well as van conversions and tent camping. So there is a campground there inside Arches, and it's down at the very end of that main road. It's called Devil's Campground. Devil's Garden is right to the left of it, and that is where we explored with Micah.
I don't know, it was moderate to difficult, I think, fair to say. Moderate to difficult. As always, make sure that you bring layered clothing, plenty of water, some snacks, and water especially, because you'll be surprised, how much you'll need that to get hydrated along the way. So we saw a bunch of different arches, obviously. The first probably being Double O Arch.
I like Double O Arch because the double O, it's two O's like this, and it goes with our name. We have a grandson named Oliver Obie. And so Oliver Obie, Double O, it was really significant to me. Micah made it super special. I closed my eyes. He says, guess what you're going to see here? And as I turned the corner, it was the Double O Arch. It was super special. It was an 8-mile total hike. But one of the best parts for me, not only is the Double O Arch, but we were walking on the fins. And these fins are like these long edges of cliffs, and we had to jump over cracks in them. And literally, you go this way, you can fall off that way. You come this way, you fall off that way. These fins are shooting out across everywhere out there in the Devil's Garden, and they were really fun. Really, really a lot of fun and exhilarating and adventurous like.
Yeah, we got to see a lot of different arches, obviously, throughout our time there, and from small to incredibly large, just burgeoning and just starting to become arches, to obviously very old, ancient, I guess, even arches. One of the other arches we went by was Landscape Arch.
Yeah, that's a big landscape arch, is a big one. Another point that we saw with Micah, again, we would not have known what this was if it wasn't for Micah, and that is the Dark Angel. The Dark Angel is this rock that sticks up off one of the fins that I guess is a very, very high point, and you can see it as you drive in and drive around in the area. The Dark Angel is just up there, and you can see it. It was really cool. It's not an arch, but it's just another point of, to see and experience.
And one more benefit, I think, to having these guided hikes is that we felt totally safe, right? The whole time. You never felt like, are we going in the wrong direction? Do we have enough time to get back? Do we have enough light? Do we have a cell phone signal? Do we have enough water, etc.? We always knew that he knew right where he was going. He knew right how he was going to get us back, and it really just allowed us to relax and enjoy everything around us.
Yeah, it's stress-free, and they're just a wealth of knowledge, and they provide so much information, and we just really enjoy it. It's well worth the money, and it definitely worth our trip.
So we wrapped up our first day hiking with Micah and went back to the RV and kind of got changed, cleaned up, had a little something to eat, and we decided that we wanted to go see Delicate Arch. And as you probably know, if you've done any arches research, that's probably the most famous arch, the one they have on the Utah state license plates. And so we wanted to see it, and we thought we had time. So it was supposed to be a 3-mile hike. We thought we had enough time left in the day, and
sunset at the arch.
Sunset. We wanted, hard hands, sunset, hard hands up at the arch. So we decided to head out without Micah, and unfortunately, to prove Jenny's point, we got lost.
We sure did.
So we packed food. We took some wine, and
don't tell nobody.
Yeah, apparently that's against the rules, and we didn't really know that. So oh well. But and we went off to Delicate Arch, and
we found
Lazy Arch.
Lazy Arch.
Yeah.
We're calling it Lazy Arch.
Yeah, which is not really an arch, but what we ended up doing was taking the
wrong road.
Yeah, the short hike to Delicate Arch. not Lazy Arch. I know. And what it did was it gave you this view across a canyon where you could see it at a long distance. It was, I don't know, a quarter of a mile that we walked to get up to it. But we decided to sit down and have our picnic and enjoy the views, and it was a fun night, but it was pretty much a fail.
It was an epic fail.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we have an experienced hiker coming down
the mountain with her headlamp on as she surveys the territory. Yes, it may not be dark yet, but preparation is the key to any safe hiking trip. She's ready for when that sun finally disappears into the darkness and her headlamp will reign supreme over the hills near Delicate Arch in Arches National Park. This is your guide checking out. Obie, good to see you. We'll see you next time. So on our second day hiking with Micah, he decided to take us outside of Arches National Park and see basically the Corona Arch Trail, I believe, and some of the other outskirts area just outside of Moab.
Yeah, we got to see, like he said, Corona Arch. We got to see Bowtie Arch, but something that I find really interesting is history. And he showed us pictographs, which I was a 6th grade teacher for many years, and cave art paintings and different things was part of the curriculum. So
I spent 2 years in 6th grade. I mean, that's got to count for something.
And I just truly love all that type of stuff. And it was real live pictographs that are still etched there and just really amazing to see. Not only that, we got to see Jurassic fossils dating back 190 million years ago. And here again, if we didn't have Micah, we would have just stepped right over them thinking they were some things in the rocks, you know, just some impressions in the rocks. But he pointed it out and showed us all the details and really got to see walk along the river and got to see some really cool things there on the outside of Moab.
Yeah, and again, it was, I'd say, moderate level hiking, especially the stretch where we went out to Corona Arch. That was a little bit of a long hike, long-ish, I thought. The weather was not warm, but as you started hiking a little while, it started to get a little bit warmer. You had to get some of those layers off, especially as we got a little bit later in the day.
And remember, we're talking October, so I can't even imagine what June, July, you know, the temperatures must be out there. But yeah, it got warm, and he's right. The hike was not just trail hiking. It's not, it wasn't real easy to find. We did walk on some side of the rocks and our ankles are twisted and stuff. So always good shoes, you know, good appropriate clothing is always a must. Good hiking techniques and safety, always, you know, take the safety measures. But again, with an adventurer, they're prepared for you. I mean, he had clip-on things for our feet if we needed them. So again, value, safety as well.
And we did a lot more than we would have done without him. And we did, I think, hiked almost 35 miles.
Oh yeah, total. In three and a half days of hiking, It was 35 miles that we put in. And you can only imagine the things that we saw throughout those 35 miles. Our bodies were feeling it, and we covered it.
We hurt like hell pretty much every evening, and for sure at the end of it. But yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm glad I forgot about that almost.
Yeah.
Well, we were pretty sore.
We decided to take on Delicate Arch one more time, because how do you go to Arches National Park and not go see Delicate Arch? I couldn't pass it up. It was gonna be another afternoon hike, so we were prepared again, but we did take the right road in and we found Delicate Arch.
Yeah, and it's about a 3-mile hike, half of it uphill, half of it roughly downhill. But a little harder than you'd think for a 3-mile hike, I thought. Here we are, 2 adventurers traversing down the mountain after the arduous climb up to the top of Delicate Arch. Now I know what you're saying. Why are they complaining it's only a 3-mile hike? Well, let me tell you, Bubba. First of all, it was straight uphill, first 1.5 miles. But it's our second hike of the day. Don't mind that slip. We already done 6 miles today through Canyonlands, and now we've capped it off with this. So here we are, the 2 wily adventurers, signing off for now until we fight again.
We earned our Mexican dinner that night.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Well, that pretty much wraps up our time at Arches National Park and Canyonlands and the surrounding Moab area. We had a blast, and we're definitely going to go back again. There's no doubt about it. You know, just some quick highlights. With any of the national parks, you want to try to get down there early. They do get busy, even in the fall, you know, and the winter maybe, depending on the park. So One thing that we know for sure is you got to get down there early because they do close them if they get too many people, and arches will do that. If they get too many people in, they'll just stop letting people in. Make sure you drink plenty of water when you're out at any of these national parks, but especially the ones that are in these desert climates. Be prepared, have layers of clothing, those kind of things. They do have restrooms conveniently located all along the park, really, for you to stop and use if you need be.
But no other services, no place to buy anything or have any food. You must bring all that in and have that yourself. So be prepared for that. They do have restrooms, and I didn't see any drinking water available, but I didn't look for it because I always have my own water. But there's no services other than restroom use that I saw. My tip is do some research, know where you're going, know what you want to do, and personally for me, hire an adventurer, a personal adventurer that is, because they will bring out the best in all areas. We've done it in many different places, and we will share more about the adventures that we've taken with private adventurers. But Micah at Hike Moab, A+, highly recommend. Well worth the money, well worth the time spent with him, and we have great pictures to prove it even.
Yep, so we hope you guys enjoy it. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. One thing I did want to mention is some of these, obviously, as you can tell, are recap videos. Right now it's winter time in Southern California where we live, so we're going to be heading back out on the road real soon. As soon as we think the weather will support what we want to do and where we want to head out over for a few months. So we're going to be bringing some really neat stuff soon as we travel. I think, well, we know, but we're not going to tell you just yet. But if you stay tuned, we probably will be talking about in the next couple weeks or so where we're going to start our next leg. And we're
2022 travel. You can always look for us for a good time.
See ya.